Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the fifth video of our series of React crash course, and in this video we're going to cover props and how to handle and transfer data between of our components in React. You can see here we got our code and project from previous parts, and let's jump into the video. Now we have the question of what are props? Basically, props, which are short for properties, allows components to receive data from their parent component. And that's something that parent component gives to the child component, and child component cannot modify them. And you can think some kind of like this, that we have our simple function right here, which here we get some items right here. Let's say we got two variables right here, and we use those variables in some codes right here. And when using function, let's say we got the name of a for our function, and when we use that, we pass some things right here. For example, let's say some numbers or some strings. And you can think that here we got our parent component when we calling the function, and this function we have right here is going to be similar to our child component. Now let's come into the project and let's get rid of this components folder that we had earlier. And now you can see we got our simple main.jsx. Let's remove these items from here too. So we got our empty React project right here. Now this is our main.jsx, but we're not going to use this very more. So I'm going to create another component here with the name of app.jsx, which here I use this RFCE as create this functional component, which exports the component itself, and I'm going to use that here in my main.jsx. And actually, let's how our project's running. So we use our npm run dev, and if we open our project in this link, you can see here we got our project. And now let's hide the console here and come to this app.jsx that you can see we got this app printing right here. We're going to use this app as our parent and then have another component which is going to act as our child component. Now actually let's create another child component here. So in our source folder, we're going to create another one with the name of, let's say, C1 right here, which has this JSX extension, of course. And again, we're going to use functional components right here, as you can see. And if we want to use that in our app.jsx, let's get rid of this div right here, have our fragments right here, and use our C1 component right here. And now you can see we got the C1, and what we have until now is our main.jsx, which providing this app and rendering this app. And inside of this apps, we're going to have this C1 right here. And let's have another style here in our source folder too. So let's say we got this style.css right here, which we're going to use later. And this is all for now for the files. Let's get rid of this main.jsx because we're not going to use this anymore. And here you can see we got this app.jsx as our parent component, and then this C1, which we have as our child component. So when we want to use and pass data from parent to the child, first, of course, we need to have some data, which we can have both of dynamic and static props and data to pass to this C1. What we need to do to create the props is very simple. We simply come to the tag that we have our child component, and basically we just create attributes like thing in our HTML. For example, here, let's say we want to create prop with the name of A. What we need to do is simply put this A right here and equal that with what value that we want. Let's say here we want to have this string of test prop right here. And this is all that we need to do to create prop in component. But how we're going to use this prop? For that, we need to come to our child component, and here The first thing that we're going to do here inside of these parentheses, we're going to use this props, which this is going to be object which grabbing all of props that we provide right here. We can have multiple props right here, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Now here, after we got this props right here, we can actually use them. Let's here remove this C1. Let's have this H1, which has this text of child component here. And now let's have another HR as divider right here. And let's use our prop here inside of another H1 that we have. For using this, we're going to use our curly braces right here. And then we're going to access this props that we have just right here. So we use this props. If you remember, we got this props as object. So if we check the type by having this type of which is built in JavaScript, you can see that we have this object. And if we want to access this A that we have right here, as you remember, accessing fields of an object, we need to have this dot right here and this A just right here. And you can see that we got this test prop appearing here in our component. And we provide the text right here. And pay attention, this is going to be different in every single child component. For example, let's say we have 3 child components right here. You can see we got this test prop 3 times right here and our child component 3 times right here. And if we change the text right here, let's say in the second one, we only want to have this text, and in the third one, we only want to have this prop. You can see we got these items printing based on how we have passed the prop to the child components. But let's say we want to identify the number of components right here too. And let's say we want to make that by another prop right here with the name of B. So let's say we have this B, which has this value of 1 right here. But you notice we can't put numbers like this in JSX. What we can do is having number as a string right here, or using again these curly braces and passing the number here. And we want to have this B for all of our components. So we got our second one as number 2, and let's say we got our third one and last one as number 3. And if we come to our C1 right here, let's use that prop of B here in the heading. We want child component, and then we pass the number right here. As you learned earlier, we got these curly braces right here. Then we want to access this props and then this B inside of that. And now you can see we got this child component 1, which this comes from the prop of B that we created right here. And here we got this 2, this 3, and the A text that we provided here in our parent component. But another easy way to handling many props when we have lots of props in our child components is distracting these items. As you know from JavaScript, we can have this distracting option, and here we simply pass the names of our props, which in our case is going to be this A and then this B. And we separate them by this comma right here. And when we use this kind of thing and distracting, we don't need to use this props dot each time when we want to use our props. And if we have this B right here or this A right here, we're going to have exactly what we want to have in our result. And pay attention, we can have other types of prop than string or numbers too. For example, let's say here we got this ARR as our array right here, which let's say holds the numbers from 1 to 5. If we want to pass these items, what we can do is, let's say instead of passing these string into this A prop that we got earlier, we want to use that ARR. As you know, we need to put these curly braces because we want access to the JavaScript thing that we got right here. So here inside of these curly braces, we can have this ARR, which is our array that we have created in our parent component. And by having this, you can see because we passed them into A and here we printing A, we got these results coming right here. and as well as this one, we can transfer and give prop an object, arrays, strings, boolean values, and any type that you can think. But now let's cover one of the common uses of props, and let's see how this props is one of the very good and awesome parts of React and how it can help us building something unique and powerful with less code and more efficiency. And for that, we're going to create simple UI of application that has some cards that show us some details about different persons that we can give some response to those items. For example, let's say we want to hire someone, and here we're going to have a bunch of people, and we're going to see which one is good and best for our work, and if we want that person, we want to contact with that person. So for that, let's actually get rid of the C1 component that we created and actually this array too, and let's actually remove the C1 right here, and we're going to create component with the name of card right here. Of course, we're going to have this JSX right here and this functional component. Then let's come to our CSS, which I'll accidentally deleted in somewhere. So we got our CSS right here, and let's import our CSS into app.jsx. As you know, we use this import and then directly the path of our style, which is this style.css. And actually we have this misspelled, and this is what we're going to have. And for the style, I have created this right here that I'm going to give you the link to this CSS code in the description that you can use, which let's not waste our time on CSS and come into the React and working with props. So here, first thing that we need to do inside of our app, let's say we got this card component right here, and we should see the cards right here as you can see. And let's come into the card and start coding this item. First, we're going to have a div with the class name of card right here as you can see, and inside of this, we're going to have the simple h1, which tells us name of the person that we have. Then let's say we got this divider right here and have some random text. So this might be as some other info about the person, let's say 30 words right here. And now let's come to this app.jsx that we got right here. And instead of this fragment that we have used, let's make these items divs, which we got this class name of container here too. And here, actually, we need to have this slash before of this div. So if we have, let's say, 3 items right here, you can see here we got 3 cards right here. And let's use props to change the name in these items. So here we use this distructor right here. Let's say the name of our prop is going to be user's name. And here we can use that prop that we got right here. And let's actually come here and pass those users' name right here. So we equal that with this string. For the first one, let's say he has the name of Tom. For the second one, let's say we have this Lily. And for the third one, let's say we have this Jack. And now you can see we have 3 different cards right here in our web page that each one has their different name, but some similar parts as the borders, the lines, some descriptions, and actually we can make the description to be dynamic and different too, but here, because it's test, we're not going to do that item. But another thing that we can do is having another props and another component using in this child component, which in that phase and that perspective, this one is going to be the parent component and the other one is going to be the child component. What I mean is, let's say we want to create some buttons here for each of these items too, because it's repeatedly, we're not going to use this app.jsx to do that, but we're going to come to here in this card, we're going to create another component as our buttons, and then we're going to use them here in our card component. So let's here come and create another component with the name of btn right here, which has again this JSX extension right here. and of course is functional component. And let's say we only want to return simple button tag right here. And we want to use actually props right here too. We want the label of the button to be prop. So we use this label right here that we're going to create in our props. And because we're not distracting, we need to have this props that label right here. And let's say here in our card, we want to use that btn component that we have created. So in VS Code, if you use the suggestions, you can see here it got our component. And if we click, it's going to automatically import that component for you. But you need to close that manually. And here, if we want to pass label right here, so let's say we want the first one's label to be, let's say, details about the person. So we got this one right here, and this is our button, which because we have some CSS right here is going to act differently. But let's say here we add another base background color of, let's say, gray right here, so we can see the button for now, which we're going to change these items with props too. So if we have this right here, we can have, of course, multiple of these items with, let's say, the next one being contact information for that person. The third one, let's say if we want to give like, and the fourth one if we want to put dislike, and let's say we got another button to be able to see CV of that person. And at the last, let's say we got another option that if we want to report that person. You can see here we got different button right here, but each of our components is going to contain and have those items. Of course, you can have some links attached to these items to be separate, which we're going to cover those items later too. But in this case, let's give these buttons a little color. So we can do that by several things. But here I'm going to give you a little trick to do this kind of things in React. So because we want to change the color of our button based on what label it has and what work it does, first we're going to grab all of these titles that we got right here, and we simply come to this btn.jsx and let's have all of them here as comments, so we don't need to go back to the card component and btn one after each other. And here what we can do is having another logic right here. So here we're going to have this switch statement right here. And here we're going to use and see the label of our props. Pay attention this time because we're not using this props in JSX, and we're going to use that inside of this function, which here we got our JavaScript code. We're going to use this simply props dot label. And we're going to check each of these items that we got earlier right here. So we should have 6 case right here, and we want to check if it's equal to these items. We want to do different things, which in our case, it's going to be the color of our button. So we're going to see the details that we have right here, and then we want to return based on the type of the label that we have. For example, if it's details, we want to have this props that label right here, and then we can have this style, and then here again we're going to have this background color right here, and let's make this blue for now. That you can see we got our blue details right here, but these one are not going to return anything, and we don't have those items. Actually, let's make these returns in single line right here, and we're going to need a bunch of these items. So first we have this details, then this contact. We're going to have one for like, dislike, CV, and report. And let's have our default one, which having this gray color. You can see now because we're returning all background color of blue right here, it's going to do like this. But of course, we can change these colors based on how we want. Here in CSS, I have created these color variables that if you don't know, I have video explained variables in CSS that you can watch. And here we're going to use those items, which here first let's get rid of this empty spaces that we have. And then let's come here and change the colors. And actually, let's get rid of all of these colors at first. So we have our default one going on. And the color for our details, we want to use this var, then double dash inside of parentheses and blue right here, which is going to give us this color that you can see. For next one, which is our contact, we have this var, our parentheses, double dash, and orange right here. Actually, let's copy this var double dash right here so we don't type this each time. The next one is our like. Let's say we want that to be our green code that we have created. Then for the dislike, let's use our red variable that we have. For the CV, we can use our purple variable that we created. And for the report, again, let's use our red variable, which you can see these are the codes that we have used. And if you don't want to use CSS variables right here, you can simply remove these items and put simply the name of the color that you want to use in your code. And here you can see we have used components to create each card right here, which has their own separated names right here. And inside of each card, we have used component of button which change the colors and maybe links that you can embed in these items to be different from each other. And after this, another way that we can do exactly the same thing that we have done right here is instead of returning based on the label that we have, we're going to return this default one that we had right here. And if we remove these returns that we got right here, actually let's comment them out. You can see this time we got all of our colors to be this gray. But we can create another variable right here with the name of color. And then inside of these items, first we check for the label of our button. And based on that, we're going to make the color's name what we should have, which if we remove these items, you can see these are the colors and CSS backgrounds that we want to give to them. And what we need to do here is simply have this color and assign that to this strings. And here, instead of having this gray, we're going to pass this color. But pay attention this time because it's going to return at the end and not in each cases. We need to have our break in end of our cases right here. So if we have this break right here, and if we check our cards again, you can see again we got this result. And actually this was the trick that I told you that you can use, which this takes more or less code and very better to maintain in your projects. That was props in React, and with props you can make your components dynamic and reusable in anywhere that you want. And in the next video we'll explore states in React and how it allows components to manage their data, which is another cool feature in React. So subscribe to don't miss that video too. And if you found this video helpful, please like and give me your opinion about the video or any questions that you might have in the comments, and I'll answer them as soon as possible.